The moment you begin to explain yourself, you give away the one thing that keeps people cautious: uncertainty. You clarify, you soften, you justify, you let them inside your mind. And from that point on, they know exactly where to strike. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this better than any political tactician, before or since. In The Prince, he warned rulers that appearances matter far more than truth. And the more you try to explain your actions, the weaker your image becomes. Why? Because when you explain yourself, you expose your frame of thinking. You signal that you care how others perceive you. You admit silently but clearly that their judgment has influence over your behavior. That is not power. That is dependency. Power does not explain. Power declares. Power moves. And then it lets others interpret. Explanation is an apology in disguise. No matter how confident you sound, the act of explaining yourself carries the scent of guilt. People interpret explanations as an admission that you fear being misunderstood, that you need their understanding in order to feel secure. And once they sense that need, they own you. You say, "I didn't mean it that way." Now they know they can guilt you. You say, "Let me clarify what I was trying to say." Now they know you're unsure. You say, "I hope this makes sense." Now they know you fear their judgment. Machiavelli would tell you this: never put yourself in a position where others must approve your thoughts in order for them to be valid. Your decisions should carry their own authority, not require borrowed permission. The moment you explain, they stop respecting. Power is built on distance, a boundary between what you reveal and what they can access. Explanation removes that boundary. It's like inviting someone into a castle only to show them the cracks in the sea in the walls. They may have respected the fortress from outside, but once they see the flaws, they can never unsee them. In conversations, especially high stakes ones, explanation reduces mystery, and mystery is what gives weight to your presence. Think about the most unforgettable, intimidating figures you've ever met or seen. They didn't rush to clarify. They didn't bend over backwards to be understood. They let people wonder. And in that wondering, they built aura. You don't win respect by opening your chest and showing your heart. You win it by making others feel your mind is something they may never fully reach. If you have to explain, you've already lost the frame. In psychological warfare, the frame is everything. Whoever sets the context controls the outcome. If someone accuses you and you jump in to explain, you're no longer leading. You're reacting within the frame they created. You're now part of their narrative. You're proving you're not what they claimed, which only reinforces that their claim, me, matters. Machiavelli never defended. If someone doubted his loyalty, his motives, or his methods, he didn't deliver a speech. He simply acted in a way that made their doubts irrelevant. And by refusing to acknowledge their accusations, he made them smaller. Here's the brutal truth. The moment you explain yourself, the conversation becomes about their lens. The moment you stay silent, it remains about your power. Your silence forces them to fill the gaps, and that's where fear lives. People hate ambiguity. When they don't understand your motives, they invent them. When they don't know what you're thinking, they imagine something, often worse than the truth. That imagination is your advantage. If you explain yourself, you kill the tension. If you stay quiet, they replay the moment endlessly. Why didn't he respond? Was she offended? Is he planning something? Did she see through me? This mental loop keeps you powerful long after you've left the room, because they're not just thinking about what you said. They're thinking about what you didn't say. And as in Machiavellian strategy, that silence becomes a sword. You don't swing it, you let it hover. Explanation breeds expectations. Once you begin to explain yourself, you set a precedent. People begin expecting explanations. They start to believe they're owed your thoughts. And every time you withhold, they'll feel insulted. This is the trap. The more you explain, the more they demand. The more they demand, the more you must reveal. And the more you reveal, the less power you retain. A leader, a strategist, a dangerous mind. They do not answer to pressure. They do not entertain every why thrown at them. Machiavelli taught that leadership is not about being liked. It's about being feared, respected, and untouchable. You cannot be any of those things if you're constantly offering your mind for dissection. Appear cold, but be calculated. This rule is often misunderstood. People think not explaining means you must become emotionally distant or harsh. But why? Machiavelli didn't advocate for coldness. He advocated for control. You can be warm, you can be charming, you can be kind. But when questioned, you do not hand over your inner map. You give nothing unless it benefits you. If silence makes them nervous, stay silent. If a vague answer protects your dim position, stay vague. If the truth would make you look weak, bury it under quiet confidence. Being unreadable doesn't mean being unfriendly. It means that every word you offer is chosen, not pulled out by demand. Let your actions speak louder and let them interpret wrong. When you stop explaining yourself, people will start guessing. Some will assume good, others will assume bad. Most will be confused. Let them be. You don't owe clarity. You owe yourself power. And sometimes the best move is to allow misunderstanding to thrive when that misunderstanding serves your purpose. Machiavelli often let his enemies believe he was weaker than he was. He allowed nobles to assume he was, finished only to strike from the shadows months later. Let them think you're foolish. Let them think you're arrogant. Let them think you made a mistake. Because while they're decoding you, you're already 10 moves ahead. Power doesn't plead. Power doesn't explain. Power moves and the world reacts. Let them talk. Let them twist your meaning. Let them write their narratives. You say you owe nothing. And when you finally act, when the truth of your strength is revealed, it will feel like a reality check they never saw coming. Here's part 2 of Never Explain Yourself. Machiavelli's brutal rule of perception control, taking the principle from theory into brutal real-world application. How to handle confrontation, criticism, and betrayal without giving up power through explanation. The modern world is obsessed with transparency, but Machiavelli knew that the obsession with being understood is the downfall of anyone who seeks real power. The demand for explanation is a trap. Tell us your side. Why did you do it? What were you thinking? And the weak fall for it. They start talking. They try to fix the image. They think the truth will save them. But the powerful, they never explain. They observe the chaos. They speak carefully and they let others talk themselves into exhaustion, because the moment you try to be understood, you hand over your control of how you're perceived. Machiavelli would say, if you must be misunderstood to keep your position, so be it. If people must hate you but still obey you, even better. When they confront you, give them a wall. When someone confronts you about a decision, a rumor, a perceived betrayal, your first instinct will be to defend, to clear the air, to provide context. Don't that's weakness disguised as communication. Instead, offer a wall, a solid, immovable wall of controlled composure. Here's what that sounds like. I understand how you feel. You're free to think that. That's not something I care to clarify. Short, cold, bulletproof. You've acknowledged them without kneeling to them. And more importantly, you've denied them access to your mind. When they realize they can't penetrate you, can't force you into self-defense, they feel smaller and you become larger in their mind without having to prove anything. When accused say nothing, then act. The inexperienced believe accusations must be answered, that silence equals guilt. But in Machiavellian strategy, silence is not guilt. Silence is leverage. When you're accused, say nothing publicly. Do not post. Do not defend. Do not even clarify in private. Instead, act. Continue working. Succeed louder. Appear unbothered. Let the accusation rot in the air, unacknowledged, unanswered, undeserving. Because what truly unnerves people is not your explanation. It's just your refusal to even engage with their words. That silence reframes the accusation as beneath you. And in time, the narrative dies because there was no drama to keep it alive. Betrayed. Don't explain, remove. When someone betrays you publicly or privately, your first impulse will be to make it known, to show people what they did, to reveal the betrayal, to explain your side so you're not seen as weak. Stop. Machiavelli would never explain betrayal. He would punish it silently. The more you talk about betrayal, the more people think you were caught off guard. The more you dramatize it, the more it looks like you're trying to win sympathy. But when you remove someone quietly, without spectacle, without a speech, people whisper, "What happened? Why aren't they here anymore? Did he get rid of them?" That silence is louder than any story. It sends a signal. If you betray me, I won't expose you. I'll erase you. Never fight to fix your reputation. Let them fight to access it. Explaining yourself is often about reputation control, but trying to fix your reputation directly is a weak man's game because it shows the world you're worried that your image is fragile, that others' opinions carry more weight than your actions. Machiavellian power flips that entirely. You don't fight to protect your reputation. You live in such a way that others fight to protect their proximity to you. Let people talk, let them assume, let the rumor cycle spin. But behind the scenes, you work, you build, you connect with the right people. And when your results speak, others will line up to reinterpret the past in your favor. This is how legends are made, not through defense, but through results. So undeniable that even your enemies must revise their version of you. If you must speak, make it ruthlessly short. Sometimes you will be forced to say something. The pressure will be too high, the silence too loud. In these rare cases, you still do not explain. You declare. Here's what that means. You don't use emotional language. You don't refer to what people are saying. You don't try to clear your name. You cement it. You say, "I made my decision. I stand by it. That's all I'll say." And then you leave it there. No quanda, no follow-up, no open wounds. You don't owe the crowd a breakdown. You give them a sentence, and that sentence becomes your shield. Let the wrong people misunderstand you. Here's the harshest truth Machiavelli would give you. Most people don't matter. Their opinions don't shape your future. Their understanding does not validate your year's path. Their approval is irrelevant. Yet, most people live their entire lives explaining themselves to the wrong audience, trying to correct strangers, appease critics, educate people who will never respect them regardless. Stop. Let them misunderstand you. Let them hate you for reasons you'll never correct. Let them think they figured you out, because while they're talking, you're rising. While they're judging, you're building. And while they're explaining, they'll realize too late. You never gave them the right script. Starve the crowd of closure. Explanation gives closure. Closure ends curiosity. But when you say nothing, when you walk away without comment, when you make the move, but never explain the why, you become a mystery. And mystery keeps people watching, keeps them studying, keeps your name in their mouths long after louder men are forgotten. In war, in politics, in personal relationships, your silence is the longest echo. It haunts, it confuses, it elevates. And when they realize they'll never get your explanation, they'll assign you power you didn't even have to claim. Machiavelli didn't write books to be understood. He wrote them to survive. He didn't explain himself to friends, enemies, or courts. He let his ideas move through rooms, a gong, while his enemies guessed at his true intent. That's not detachment. That's dominance. And in your world, in your circle, on your platform, the same law applies. Do not explain. Move, win, let them make sense of it later. Here's part 3 of Never Explain Yourself. Machiavelli's brutal rule of perception. Control focused on turning silence into a shield, a weapon, and finally into a self-sustaining legend. Machiavelli's brilliance wasn't in how he ruled, but in how he framed his rule. He didn't just act strategically. He made people believe he acted strategically even when he did nothing. And this is the heart of power. Not just action, not just silence, but creating a reputation so calculated, so untouchable that it operates without your involvement. Because the truly powerful do not explain. They let the myth do it for them. Once your reputation becomes a self-defending narrative, you no longer need to defend yourself. Others will. Circumstances will. And if none do, your mystery will make people afraid to attack in the first place. Create a reputation based on ambiguity, not clarity. Clarity is for public servants, for those who serve the mob, for those who must be liked to survive. But if you want control, real Machiavellian control, you must become difficult to define. Are you kind or cruel? Are you loyal or opportunistic? Are you just lucky or playing 3 moves ahead? The more difficult it is to categorize you, the more hesitant people become to challenge you because they don't know what to expect. They don't know what you're truly capable of, and they don't know where their attack will land. This is how you build psychological armor, by refusing to ever fully explain your beliefs, your principles, your methods. You give just enough to suggest direction, but never a full map. Let them debate your morals. Let them analyze your motives. The more confused they are, the more cautious they become. Let people fill the silence with stories, then watch those stories work for you. Here's the Machiavellian trick most never learn. You don't need to create your legend. You only need to create the silence where legends are born. Say little, move mysteriously, leave gaps in your story. People will fill them for you. And because the human mind hates gaps, it will create meaning. And that meaning will often be more powerful than anything you could have. Said to yourself. They'll say, I heard he used to work with dangerous people. She always knows things before others do. He doesn't say much, but when he does, everyone listens. Let them exaggerate. Let them mythologize. Correcting them would only ruin it. Your power grows every time someone repeats a story that you never confirmed. Become the person they can't accuse without doubting dangerous themselves. When you never explain yourself and when your reputation is steeped in intentional mystery, people become afraid to accuse you because they can't quite pin anything on you, because they don't know where you truly stand, because others in the room might defend you, because there's always the chance they've miscalculated. This makes you unattackable, not because you're invincible, but because people fear being wrong about you. And in a Machiavellian world, being hard to accuse is more important than being innocent. Use reputation as a proxy to speak without speaking. When your presence is large enough, you don't even need to comment anymore. People will say, "He probably planned this. She wouldn't have done that without a reason. Trust me, this is all part of something bigger. They're explaining for you, and you said nothing." This is the highest level of perception control. You are silent. They interpret, they assign intention, and they defend your silence, because your reputation is doing the talking. At this point, if someone tries to call you out, they're not just confronting you, they're confronting the entire mental model people have constructed around you. And most don't have the strength for that. Leave loose ends on purpose. Most people want their story to be clean, explained, understood. But a Machiavellian mind knows this. What you leave unexplained is what gets remembered. Let people wonder about why you ended that relationship. Let them question why you left that job at your peak. Let them talk about how you fell silent after being disrespected. Every loose end becomes a doorway for imagination. And the imagination, especially in those who fear you or envy you, always fills in the blank with something more powerful than reality. You don't have to say, "I'm dangerous." Let the story become, "He never said anything. He just walked away," and things started falling apart after that. That's worth more than 1,000 explanations. Your reputation must punish curiosity. Here's the final call. Rule. They must learn that prying into you is risky. The more people believe they can analyze, decode, or explain you, the more they will. But the moment they realize every attempt at clarity only leads to greater confusion or consequence, they stop trying. This doesn't require threats. It requires consistency in mystery. When they ask questions, you smile. When they challenge your silence, you shift the topic. When they demand clarity, you say, "You'll understand when you're ready." Eventually, they stop digging because the silence around you feels heavier than the answers they might get. That's when you win. That's when you become untouchable, because not even curiosity can get close. The myth is stronger than the man. Machiavelli's power didn't just come from his writing. It came from how he made people think he operated. You can destroy a man, but you can't kill a myth. Not easily, and certainly not with an explanation. Once your silence becomes your brand, your unpredictability becomes your shield, and your mystery becomes your presence, you don't need to play defense anymore. Others will misquote you in your favor. Warn others about you. Repeat your words like prophecy. And every time they do, your legend grows. Not because you explained it, but because you never did. So stop explaining. Let your reputation do the work. Let the silence echo louder than your voice. And when they talk about you, and they won't know who you really are. They'll only know one thing. They should have never tried to figure you out in the first place. Here's part 4 of Never Explain Yourself, Machiavelli's brutal rule of perception control. This is the final strike. How to use silence as a permanent survival weapon even in betrayal, exile, or collapse, and still walk away stronger than before. There will come a moment, if you haven't faced it already, where you are misunderstood, deliberately, publicly, violently. You will be cast as the villain. They will twist your silence into arrogance. They will try to isolate you, punish you, or turn others against you. And in this moment, your instinct will scream, say something, fix it, defend yourself, explain. But Machiavelli's brutal rule still stands. Do not, because this is the final test of power. Not how you rise when admired, but how you endure when hated. Not by pleading innocence, but by remaining silent while everyone else drowns in noise. When the world turns against you, say less, not more. People believe a fall from grace requires a confession, but only weak men confess to survive. Strong ones go silent, then return stronger. When the world turns against you, most will panic, issuing public statements, long apologies, explanations disguised as setting the record straight. But none of that restores power. It just confirms that you feel vulnerable. Machiavelli would never answer the mob. He would wait. He would vanish if necessary, because time has one brutal law. Public rage burns hot but dies fast. Your silence during the storm becomes a mirror. People see themselves in it. Their guilt, their betrayal, their mistakes. And when the silence remains, long after the chaos fades, they begin to doubt what really happened at all. Make them miss you before you return. Silence is not just a shield. It's a vacuum. And if you've built your presence correctly, that vacuum hurts people. When you're gone, they notice. When you don't react, they keep checking. When you say nothing, they keep listening just in case. Machiavelli knew how to use absence like a weapon. He was exiled, disgraced, forgotten, and yet people kept quoting him, kept fearing him, kept wondering what he was doing in the shadows. That's the ultimate Machiavellian play. Disappear at the peak of tension, reappear when the chaos has cooled, and now you are the calm. You don't re-enter to justify. You re-enter to replace. Be so quiet they start doubting the truth itself. When but attacked, the truth isn't what saves you. It's what you let others believe. If you shout your innocence, you look guilty. If you rush to correct, you look desperate. But if you say nothing over time, people start questioning what they saw. Did they really understand your motives? Was that action truly betrayal? Maybe you were right. Maybe you never cared. Maybe they made a mistake. Silence leaves them alone with their choices. And the human mind, when forced to sit in uncertainty, rewrites the past to feel better about itself. And guess who looks better in the rewrite? You. Because you didn't beg, you didn't chase, you didn't explain. You watched them burn your name and smiled through were the flames. Never try to win back those who turned. When people betray you, then demand an explanation. Let them rot. You owe them nothing. Machiavelli knew those who betray once will betray again. The one moment they force you into a corner to explain yourself is the moment they become your superior. You reverse that power not by argument but by disappearance. Make the betrayal expensive. Make your silence louder than their slander. Make your absence costly. Because when you return, you do not return to the same battlefield.